Hey, peace and blessings to you. My name is Jerry B. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. But what's very interesting is today you're surrounded by the EntreMusician community. So everybody on here is an EntreMusician, and we're grateful today to be featuring a legendary icon in the person of CHRIS JASPER, and I mean lifetime Grammy award-winning artist, Songwriters Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, who's wrote some of the most memorable music of our lives, and we're grateful that he's sharing his time with the community today. So everybody, welcome Mr. CHRIS JASPER. Blessings to you. I'm going to do that.
Welcome.
All right.
I guess one of the first things that we'll do is, Mr. Jasper, is just go around the room and we'll just ask everyone to just kind of introduce themselves before we kick off with any questions for you, sir. I'll just, so that there's no stepping on each other, I'll just call you out. But, Robbie, if you don't mind starting out, brother, please just introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, Chris. My name is Robbie. I am an artist, producer, and songwriter.
Good.
Brother Daryl.
Good evening, Chris. Very nice to meet you. My name is Daryl Looney. I am a funk jazz violinist and a song metadata and music royalties enthusiast.
That's great. Nice to meet you too.
One of the newest members of the EntreMusician community is Margot Fitzgerald. So Margot, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, Chris. I'm in Memphis, and I am a Christian contemporary lyricist.
That's great.
And Anna?
Hello, Chris. Thank you for joining us here. I am here in Toronto, Canada, actually 3 hours from Toronto, tiny little town. And I'm an a cappella artist. I write songs in a cappella of multiple genres.
Sounds interesting. Mm-hmm.
I said I was going to introduce Nathaniel first, Chris, before you got on. This is Nathaniel Rose, but Nathaniel, come to your thing, come to your mic. But while you do that, let's introduce Blair, and then we'll go to Nathaniel.
Hi, Chris. My name is Blair White, Northeast Ohio, home of Jerry B. Youngstown, Ohio. So happy to see you on the podcast tonight. And I know that you did some Moog synthesizer work. I still got my 1974 Mini Moog over my right shoulder here. Yeah.
I remember that one. Yes.
Pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you too.
Brother Nathaniel?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chris. My name is Nathaniel Rose, and I call myself a conceptualist because I can take a thought all the way to a finished product, and I want to tell you that through the early days of AM radio and early days of FM stereo, you guys have been an integral part of my life because I grew up to most of the hits. I'm on the verge to being 67. So when I say you guys, since that 3+3 album, have shaped my life, it's amazing. And that I just want to say hello and many blessings to you.
Wow, thank you.
And Sister Linda Rain?
Hi, Chris. My name is Linda Rain, and I'm a Canadian singer-songwriter. I live in Leamington, Ontario, Canada, which is the southernmost tip of Canada. And I thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, good. Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well, we might as well stay in Canada and go to Thomas.
All right. Hey, Chris. My name is Thomas Alexander. I guess I'm probably one of the oldest guys on here. I'm 75. I'm a singer, songwriter, live performer, multi-styled vocalist.
Great.
Brother Robin Williams?
Hey, Chris. My name is Robin Williams. I'm so happy to meet you. I am a producer, a music producer, writer,
I am a documentary executive producer that's on Amazon Prime. Live in Philadelphia, and a drummer.
All right. Sounds good.
Ladina's from Finland, but she's in the United States for a couple days. But Ladina, are you able to come online? There we go.
Yeah, I am from Finland, but I'm in the States visiting now. I write gospel songs, which are sung all over the United States, but most of them aren't in audio form as far as I know. And children's songs, I have a TV program on Finnish streaming, Yle, YLE, of an animated children's songs, 3 episodes.
Very interesting. It's good.
Very cool. From Beaumont, California, John from Stage Dive. He doesn't have a last name. It's just John from Stage Dive.
Stage Dive might as well be the last name. Hey there, Chris. Yeah, my name is John. I'm a founder of Stage Dive, a music streaming platform focusing on making sure that independent artists get paid for their streams. And yeah, so that's what we do. Stage Dive, stagedive.com.
That's good. Very good.
Last but not least is my doppelganger from Serbia. So he's up very, very late. And this is Nenad.
Well, hi, Chris. Pleasure to meet you. I'm Nenad. I'm from Belgrade, Serbia, a small country in Europe. I'm an artist, songwriter, music producer, and mostly funk, soul, jazz, and electronic music.
Wow, sounds good. Sounds great.
He also has a smoking radio show in the UK that plays on Fridays too. Very, very cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Excellent. Well, again, we want to thank you for your time, sir. We'll get started. I know there's a lot of questions. I have one in particular, and I'm just taking the ball here. We didn't draw straws as to who would ask questions first, but you know, I'm trying not to ask any of the same questions that I asked the last time that you were on the podcast, but I wanted to know, what is the seminal moment when you knew that it was the right decision to go with the Isley Brothers? Like, was it because you heard the first hit on the air, or was it something that happened in a performance or in the studio when you knew, when you were just coming in, that, yeah, this is it. I'm sticking with this. I'm making the right decision?
Well, we kind of have a long history, you know, the Isley family and the Jasper family. You know, we grew up in the same actual kind of development in Cincinnati, Ohio. And at one point, my sister Elaine married Rudolph Isley, you know, one of the older brothers. That even brought the families closer together. So they were family, you know. And but nobody had any idea that we would get together and, you know, form a group together, because they had already you know, went on and did some records before we even got involved. The younger guys even got involved. So there was no real plan to do it, you know. But what happened was the three of us younger guys, Ernie and Marvin and myself, we had a group of our own. And, you know, we would play at different places in New Jersey where we were living. You know, we even played a bowling alley one time. We played wherever we could, you know, and the high schools and churches. And so at one point, the older guys and Ronald in particular, he said, "Hey man, you know, I want you guys to record some of your original material, you know," and because we had a few songs we were working on, and we went out to the studio in Englewood, New Jersey, and we recorded some stuff, some covers and some original things. And at that point, you know, everybody kind of felt that it was the right thing that we would join the older guys, that was kind of the turning point. When we did that session, Ronald was even in there trying to hum some things, as we were playing, but, we were a pretty tight trio. And at that point, we started to tour with them. We started to record on the sessions, and it kind of felt right at that point. We were of age then, I had just graduated high school, and going to college, so it was a very busy time, but it was a very musical time. I was composing music at college, and at the same time doing sessions, with the Isley Brothers and going on tour, and it was just a great learning experience. But that period of time was kind of the turning point.
That's excellent. Well, do you mind if I flip the coin then and say, well, when did you feel that as you were transitioning from the Isley Brothers to ISLEY-JASPER-ISLEY, that it was the right time to do that? Was it a business decision completely, or were there other factors?
Mostly business. They had different, obligations than we had, and I think because of the business, we couldn't really go on as 6 members at that point.
I see.
So we decided to start doing our own projects, ISLEY-JASPER-ISLEY projects. And but it was basically based in business. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, I know Margot, she texted me a question earlier, so I know she has a question for you. And then if you could just say by show of hands or what have you, so that we can come to you, because I know you have a question for Mr. Jasper. But Margot, go for it.
Chris keeps moving around on the screen, so I'm looking one place and then he's right there. So there you are. I see you. Question to you. Did I not read that Elton John was a keyboardist at one time for the Isley Brothers?
That may have been when I was still in elementary school.
So literally before your time.
Yeah, it was I was still living in Cincinnati, probably, because they used to do gigs, and sometimes they would get just musicians to come in and join in the band. That was a long time before I got started with them, but I did hear that too. I can't confirm it.
Well, if you can't confirm it, then
I'm so young, but I did hear things like that. Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
Excellent. Nanad had his hand up.
Yeah, and I was wondering, because that what Jerry has mentioned, the thing that after ISLEY-JASPER-ISLEY and you started solo career, how much of the advantage was the legacy of the Isley Brothers, and how much of a burden for you as a songwriter was that same legacy?
Well, it was a benefit because people knew me from the group, because I was with them a long time, and we had gold and platinum albums, and we toured everywhere, and we even did a lot of promotional things, when we went on the road. So a lot of the program directors and jocks knew us, because basically we would do the interviews. The 3 younger guys, we would go to do the interviews. And so when we went into a radio station, they knew us, So that was one of the benefits. But a thing that was kind of challenging, though, at the same time, there was high expectations, because of the history. So when I went into the studio to do Superbad, I kind of had that weight on me, okay, you did the Isley Brothers and, the Caravan of Love and Insatiable Woman, and you did all this other stuff. Okay, now what are you going to do? And it's like, it's kind of tough, but I like a challenge. I was always like that when I was young. Somebody told me I couldn't do something. I said, oh yeah, really? Okay, I'll show you something. And I kind of had that in me. And that's what when I wrote my song Be Number One. You know, so I had power in my soul. That's what I was talking about. You know, I just had that in me. And when I went in to do that album, I said, well, you know, I'm gonna put my best, do my best, and record like I've been recording in the past, you know, but with new material, you know. And that album came together pretty well. I had a nice place to record. I went up to this place in Connecticut, a great studio, and it just turned out really well, you know.
Absolutely. Well, I'm before I go to the next question, I have to say this, and this is being a little bit braggadocious because you're an Ohio fan now. That be number one, the very first line of that is growing up in Ohio. So you got to tell everybody on the call that Ohio is the funkiest state in the nation.
It's funky, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Detroit,
funky bands and individuals
Detroit
came out of Ohio. You know, I don't know why. You know, people ask me that. You know, but I don't know why. But it just is. You know,
it is. That's
it just is.
Well, Mr. Detroit, Daryl Looney, you could be next for your question.
Hey, I'm sorry. Dr. Funkenstein was born Detroit. Okay, look at that alone. Now, everybody that knows me, they know that I'm into the administrative stuff, the back end stuff, the stuff that's not sexy, the stuff that's not, you know, out there cool. That means things like, you know, doing the administrative things and registering copyrights, metadata, all of that. You know, you cats have like one of the most extensive catalogs out there and all of that. How is it managing that and staying organized with all of the splits that you have to do and all of that kind of stuff? What is that like for you on a daily basis?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have to do that part. You know, Sony ATV right now is the administrator of the catalog.
Okay.
And so they can handle all the splits as long as they give me my split.
Got to get those priorities.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. But they're doing a great job for a long time. You know, I remember when everybody started to cover our stuff. You know, happened like a lot in the '90s. You know, they did a great job with that. You know, with making sure everything was all the things, all the samples were legitimate. You know, number one, yes. And then, you know, making sure that, like you said, the splits were done and all the things that the copyright, you know, forms and all that stuff that had to be done. They did a great job with that. You know.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, because that is something that really so many people fall down on these days, you know, with everything being so digital and all of that. So it's great that you guys had the back.
It's a tough goal. I mean, if you're trying to do it yourself with that type of catalog, you know what I mean, it would be very difficult.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So Robbie from Richmond, Virginia. I think you're on mute, brother.
Mute. Yeah. Yeah, Chris, for the most part, the majority of us here are songwriters at least. So kind of two questions. What is kind of all what is basically your writing process? And then also what was the best advice that you received that changed your writing process for the better?
Well, I'll start with the second part of the question first. I had a composition teacher one time tell me that one of your best tools is your eraser. Never get, you know, too confident with what you're doing. You know, try to be subjective. You know, separate yourself from the music. You know what I mean? Don't put your ego into what you're doing. Be honest. Listen back when you make a recording. Listen back to it as if you're somebody else. And if you need to make a change, make that change. That's helped me a lot to be objective about what I'm doing. Don't get is this sounding right? Is this feel right? Is this music gonna touch somebody, in a positive way? And that's kind of what kept me going for so long, is that objectivity. I'm not, okay, I wrote it, but now I'm listening to it like somebody else, is detached from it. I think that's one of the hardest things it is for a lot of people to do, is to separate themselves from the music and just be honest. Is this good? Or, because some people write things and it's like, oh, well, I wrote this song and, it sounds great to me. Okay. All right. But are you really, is it really that way? Or, you know what I mean? So you have to separate yourself and be objective and be honest. I've started a lot of songs over again, on a path, and it's, okay, chord progression sounds pretty good, all right. But is it moving? It's not moving me though. Okay, I got to start over. You know what I mean? I got to bring out the eraser, I learned that, when I was studying classical music. That's why the erasure thing came up, because you write everything out. You write your music, write everything, and everything you write isn't great. Not at first, but if you can refine it, you can go back to it. Sometimes you can bring a piece back. But I feel if it's not a solid idea just from one instrument, if it's a keyboard, a guitar, like when I was writing Caravan of Love, I was walking around with a guitar outside, just taking a break, and I played the chord progression, and I said, yeah, okay, that sounds like I could develop it into something, but it's from that. If it's not good from that point, I don't usually continue.
Very cool.
It's like sitting down at the piano playing something and singing it. If it's not strong there, it's not going to be strong. I don't care how many instruments you pile up on top of it. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know if you know or familiar with Joe Jefferson. He was a writer with Philly International, and he made the statement to me: if you can't break it down, out of all of the instruments, and just sit at the piano or sit at the a guitar, and it still emotes that same feeling, then you don't have nothing yet.
I find that's true.
That's interesting.
When I wrote that, it's just the piano part. The piano part alone just solidifies the song. Now, when I start adding the bass to it, and adding a few more things to it, it just enhances it. It makes it grow. But you got to have that initial thing, that one instrument. If it's powerful, then it's going to continue to be powerful. And that's kind of how I write. Is I'll sit down at the keyboard, play some things, practice a little, and sometimes I'll hit upon something that I really like. But if I don't like it from that standpoint, I'll usually go on to something else.
Well, piggybacking off of what Blair had said earlier, is you could see the mold that's sitting behind him. What is your approach then from the production aspect? So here's the songwriting is one approach, but from a production standpoint, what is your eraser doing that part?
See, that's another thing. I can sometimes tell when I have the core idea, like from one instrument, I can hear what I'm going to add to it. You know, it's a strange thing, but sometimes I can hear the entire arrangement in my head, you know, just from playing, and I'll know what to add. I'll know what to add. Just like Highways of My Life, I heard all of those parts just from the piano part I was playing, because I usually play as though an orchestra would play those parts. You know, my keyboard parts, when I add a synthesizer part, like For the Love of You, for example, the synthesizer part in there, the melodic synthesizer part, you know, that's maybe something an oboe or a clarinet would play. You know what I mean? So I have that orchestration thing in my mind when I'm composing, and it comes from composing even from an early age. You know, I was 7 years old when I started playing piano, and my piano instructor was a professor, and I lucked out getting this guy, Professor Gibbs, and he taught me a lot about composing when I was taking piano lessons, because he would tell me the different devices that the composers would use in order to, you know, construct their pieces. You know, so I had all this stuff in my mind at an early age. And when I started writing professionally, I would go back and use some of those things, you know, and it helped my musical ear to be exposed to so many different genres, you know, that I could hear Caravan of Love when I wrote it. When I sat at the piano and started playing the chords, I said, okay, I know exactly what to add to this song, because I could hear the arrangement, you know, and I think that's kind of I always call it a gift, because composition is a gift, just like a virtuoso musician. They play an instrument, you know, they're great musicians, right? That's a gift. And composing is another gift. And sometimes you have to be honest about what your gift is. You know, sometimes a person will say, okay, I want to be a songwriter, but okay, is that your gift? Is that your strong point? Or is being an instrumentalist, is that your strong point? You know what I mean? Or are you a lyricist? Is that your strong point? You know, sometimes you can't be everything.
Right.
You know, some people can do a lot of things, like a Stevie Wonder, for example. You know, he can do a lot of things very well.
Right.
You know, maybe some people aren't gifted to that degree. You know, and that's another thing that, you know, kind of happened in our group, with the Isley Brothers, is all of my background I would apply to the music, and I would end up being in the studio by myself a lot of times. You know, because I was adding all the parts. I was playing all the instruments almost.
Wow.
You know, I would play bass parts. I would play guitar parts. You know, I would play all the keyboard parts. You know, and you know, Ernie would come in every once in a while. He'd do a solo. He'd do his guitar part. Then he would go back. But I was there 24/7. You know, all the time, mixing with the engineers, doing everything, right? And that's why I can do it today. That's why I can do my own music today. All I need is somebody to, you know, tell me if they like it or not. Basically, you know, but and you know, I'm not bragging or anything, but that's what I've been doing for so many years. I'm just trying to explain. That's what I've been doing for so many years with the Isley Brothers, IJI, and when I did my solo albums, I just continued to do the same things. You know, I wasn't doing anything different.
Absolutely.
You know, and the music sounds, you know, a lot of people tell me, hey, you know, that sounds like that's the Isley Brothers sound. And I'll say, well, okay. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Because I was doing all the music anyway.
Right.
You know.
Well, let me say this. I saw Nanad had his hand up, but I would say to you, sir, in no uncertain terms, that sitting before you is some of the most outstanding, amazing musicians that I've had the pleasure of knowing. And I will also tell you also that they are some of the most talkative musicians that I know as well. But why they're not putting their hands up, I don't understand. But Nanad, you had your hand up, so you asked the next question, and you guys come on and get on board.
Yeah, Chris, besides the talent, you mentioned something that I would like to hear your opinion about, and that's how much the classic music training and education and the knowledge of music theory helped you or influenced you in your composing, in your creative process of creating music.
Oh, it was it was something that I wish a lot of people would experience, because it's like, okay, if I can explain this right, it's the difference between riding and driving a car and building a car. Okay, when you go and study composition, you have to know how to write for every instrument. You know, you have to know the ranges. You have to know what they can do well, what they can't do well. You know what I mean? You have to know all the nuts and bolts about music. You know, intervals, everything. I mean, you just name it, a composer has studied it. Okay. And that's why I make the analogy about making a car as opposed to driving a car. And that gives you such a broad scope of where to go. You know, okay, you need a chord change. Where do you go? All right. Sometimes you can rely on the things that you've studied. You know, what is a good chord change? What is a good direction to go to? How do you take the melody from here to there? You know, how do you introduce another theme or the same theme, but invert it maybe? You know, all of those things that you learn in composition. It's like I went through that with the Between the Sheets song. You know, I could give a seminar on that song for about a semester. Wow. Of what was in my mind when I was actually playing all those parts, because Between the Sheets is all keyboard. Yeah. It's nothing else. Well, a drum machine, drum machine and keyboards. But that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about all kinds of things when I was forming those chords and doing those lines. And it sounds kind of simple, right? When it works, you know, just like when you get in a nice car, it's simple, man. You hit the gas and you drive it. I mean, it's simple, right?
Right.
But to make it though, it's pretty complicated. You see what I mean? And that's why I wish everybody could study music, because it broadens your scope where you can go with any genre. You know, right? It just broadens where you can go. You know, like I studied jazz. I studied with Billy Taylor, one of the greatest pianists, you know, jazz pianists of the day, yeah. Right? And it's like I had a lot of great people mentoring me, you know, along my way. And it's no substitute for education. It's no substitute for knowledge. You know, a lot of people I've heard them say, oh yeah, well, you know, I can do things, you know, on my own, you know. Okay, fine. Okay, all right. Maybe you can. But if you have good teachers, if you have good education, there's no substitute for it. And a lot of times you'll find that a lot of the arrangers, you know, back when, you know, the arrangers were doing a lot of they studied music. You know, they studied music and they had a good knowledge of you know, what instruments to add and what the instrument could play and what part to write for it and so on and so forth. You know, education is, I couldn't have written a lot of my songs without my education. I have to say that.
Understood. Well, I think Nathaniel, yeah, go for it, Nathaniel, and then we'll go to Anna.
Gosh, I just go back to I think it was the first time I really saw you guys. That was at the Front Row Theater, and to see the whole ensemble in full form, it was just amazing. You guys were unstoppable. But in saying that, is there anything that? Oh, and I will also say you guys were the king of uh, 1 and 2. You know, part 1 and part 2 records.
Yeah.
I mean, man, when y'all got to jamming, it was amazing. Also, but I would say, is there anything you would bring back that you know coming up that in the music business that you think would help us or remain solid as now that would help us?
Anything that I would bring back? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay. I mean, techniques or business wise, or, you know, everything's done differently now. So, you know, what would you bring back?
What would I bring back? I kind of liked it when the group, the ensemble, the musicians would be in the studio and play together.
Yeah.
That had a great vibe to it. You know, like recorded a 3+3 album like that. You know, part of the Live It Up album like that. You know, where you go in, you know, you got all the musicians there, you know, everybody knows their part, you know, and you know, you count it off, 2, 3, bam, and you go for it, right? And a lot of times you might get it on the first take. You have to do another take sometimes, but it's a great vibe, you know. And I remember doing That Lady that way and Summer Breeze, you know. A lot of other songs too, but I think that would be a good thing to come back to. I mean, I think it would. I think it would help a lot as far as the feel of the music. You know, sometimes some songs can feel stagnant. You know, but if you've got that live kind of live thing going in the studio, a lot of nice things can happen. You know.
Absolutely excellent. Sister Anna.
Hello. So I love the eraser comment. I have to say, I live with the eraser, and even though I have my laptop, I still like to write songs and lyrics in a notepad. And of course, unlike you, I'm not trained at anything, so I can't. You know, I'm not a trained singer. I don't know music theory. I can't play an instrument. This is why I am an a cappella artist, is because I still have thoughts and songs in my head, and I have to bring them out. So I'm coming at it from a totally different angle, and I also and so it's interesting when I'm writing my songs too, because I do write notation. Otherwise, I'd never remember what I was doing with a lyric line. But my notation is fake. It's just like dots on a page, and I'm trying to just show where notes go up and down and maybe the duration of them. But I can't write theory, so it's actually comical. But I have my eraser with me at every point in time because I'm always reworking things. So with that as a context, and I sent one of my a cappella songs to Jerry. I don't know if you'll be around to listen to it later or not, but it'll be interesting if you did. I understand what you're saying when you are talking about, you know, you come at it from so many different facets. You can play so many different instruments, and you can do it yourself, and you will spend hours laboring over the right sound and getting it the exact way you want it. And then you'll sit in the mixing booth as well, and you have full control because ultimately you know what that's going to be. You've got a feeling, you've got a vibe, and you're going to hone it through until you get what you want. My question is, at what point do you give up control? And can you give us an example of when you allowed somebody else to jump in and take that thing that you were just shaping the way you wanted it, and then they turned it around on you, and you had to let it go and just trust them. What song was that, and how did that feel?
Well, it happened actually with the Isley Brothers when the 6 members were together. I started to write songs. Some of the songs I wrote for myself, okay, for me, and I knew exactly how to sing it. I knew exactly the passion to put it in and everything else, and it was recorded. We recorded in the studio, but the older brothers wanted Ronald to sing it. Mm-hmm. Not that it would be better, but just because he had been singing things, for a long time. And it just, at that point, it suffered. It didn't match, it didn't reach its potential. It's like if I let somebody else sing Caravan of Love, I think we'd have lost something. Simply because, the voice is like an instrument. Okay, if you have a song that needs a sax solo, and somebody comes in and puts a trumpet solo, no matter how great the trumpeter is, right, it's gonna not be the same. So I learned a lesson by that, because I kind of, I yielded to the other guys and said, okay, all right, let it go like that, but it wasn't the same song.
Did they know that? Did they like what was created, or did they know something?
I don't think they really did, but it was just okay. Ronald, he sang lead, but and not to take anything away from Ronald, because he sang a lot of things very well, but some things were not written for him. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. It wasn't written for the trumpet. It was written for the saxophone over here. I have a different tone in my voice, and I know I had a different passion for the song because it was personal. You know what I mean? And when you write a song that's personal, that person can get the best result from it, especially if they can sing. I was in the choir all my life, from 4th grade, so singing was a part of my life, not just being a composer, so it was, and they knew I could sing, because, when we do live shows, I would sing live and the place would go crazy, so they knew I had that talent, but I just think they didn't want to give up the lead role, you know what I mean? But it made the product suffer. And I never gave up the control after that, because I said, I'm not going to let, and if somebody sang it better, I would let them do it. I want the best for the product, and not the best for me. I want the best for the product, and that's how I look at it. Because I look at things from a composer's standpoint. If another person's going to do better, hey, go ahead. But if you're not, let somebody else do it. You know what I mean? Let somebody else bring it to the best it can be. Not just halfway, I don't like halfway.
Do you have any of those halfway songs that now you're going to go back and at the age of 75 come back with a new album?
Well, when I'm 75, I'll come back with a new album. I'm not 75 yet. But, I'm just saying, I don't know. I redid For the Love of You just for the heck of it, just to have another version. I redid, a couple of more of the Isley Brothers songs, but I've been thinking about doing some of those, but I also have to ask myself, the messages in the song. Do I want to have that same lyric? You know what I mean? Because lyrics are very important to me, and if they're not totally positive, I kind of want to do something else, because I think positive messages are needed, and that's who I am now. See, like before, years ago, I would probably, record stuff with different messages in it, now I'm more positive as a person, and God is strong in my life, and I want the messages to be that way, that maybe I could help somebody. Somebody can hear a song and say, hey, that's a good thing. I might try that. I might want to take that path. So I don't know. I think about reaching back, but like I said, the lyrics are the most important thing now to reach back for. And I would consider doing some other things though.
Excellent.
Thank you for those answers. I could probably talk to you alone for hours, but I love your depth. I love your depth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Blair, Robbie, and the Nad. So Blair, what's happening?
Chris, I was sort of wondering when I heard you talk about you would write a song and they would all want to have another vocalist, the one that usually sings. And you worked with other people like Chaka Khan. Did you feel a freedom there working and with her and getting your song represented the way you wanted it to be? And also, who else did you like to work with? Those are my two questions.
Yeah, Chaka Khan, that was great. That was a great experience working with her. She's an incredible vocalist, and she even plays the drums. I didn't know that, but she's very talented, and like it was like you said, free. You could do what I wanted to. I was even singing there, with her, doing the backgrounds and doing, some ad libs at the end, and it was great. She had a great time, but that's what I mean. I like to do things because of the song that I wrote for her. How that came about was I was recording at the same studio she was recording at. And her producer asked me, he said, do you have anything, maybe that she could record, And I said, okay, I think so. And the song Make It Last, I thought would fit her, and it did. She sang the heck out of it. I thought we could have got a little better mix though, the co-producer, he ended up doing some mixing on it, but it was a great experience, I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Excellent. Brother Robbie? You're on mute, sir.
Okay, there we go. Chris, I'm grown up in church singing and playing, and I've noticed that you've done some gospel or inspirational music. So I'm always curious as to, as an artist, how do you kind of reconcile those two, I guess, genres, pop music or R&B music versus gospel music? And do you have any church mothers coming tapping you on the shoulder telling you got to do one or the other?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. That's what I was alluding to before and saying, that I'm kind of different than when I started, right? Like I probably wouldn't write a lyric like Between the Sheets now. Okay. My music now, whether it's gospel or R&B, it's going to have a positive message. It's going to have a message that's consistent with God's word. Whether I'm talking about a love song, and I'm going to be talking about usually marriage. And if it's a song about, say, some social thing, it's still going to have, consistent with God's word. It's not going to be something that conflicts. In other words, that's what I'm saying. Lyrics now are very important to me. I don't want to say anything that's not positive, that's not good, that's not uplifting, that's not, that something, so you can take something away, from the song, and it's in a positive way, and in keeping with God's principles.
Very good. Very good. I thought Nanette was next. I thought you had
I do have a question, if I may. Chris, you were talking about, I just have to go back a bit. You were talking about that traction that you had between the members of the band, meaning who's going to sing the song and something like that. But I would also like to know, since you have that extended experience with the industry, how much of the pressure came from the industry, from the record labels, meaning pressure that you have to write songs in a certain way, you have to change them in a certain way. Did that happen? Did that evolve during the period? How was that then, and how is it now? And all of the things, considering the relationship between the industry, the record labels, and the artists, the one who is creating music.
You mean how much influence do the record labels have on creativity?
Yeah. How much they put the demand on the creator of music, on how should the final product look like?
Yeah. Well, I have to go back to when I was a 6-member group with the brothers. Once we did the 3+3 album, and it was successful like that, what happened back then was, if you were successful, usually the label would, kind of back off, let you continue in the direction you're going in, right? So we didn't have much pressure like that. The label didn't tell us, well, you ought to do this, you ought to do a disco record. We didn't run into that because the path we were on was successful. And one thing in music that you don't want to do is interfere with success.
Right.
Every executive knows that line, right? So if an artist is successful, leave them alone, until they need some help, and that's kind of how they look at it. So we didn't run into that, and with IJI, ISLEY-JASPER-ISLEY, it was the same thing. They just, hey, these guys have something going, leave them alone, let them go their own way. And then when I formed my own record label, it was just me. So, I didn't kind of try to take myself somewhere where I wasn't supposed to be. But see, that's another thing. I knew where my core fans were and the music and everything, and I didn't want to stray from that, because if I did, somebody would say, "Well, why'd you do that?" Trying to follow some trend or something. What did you do that for? And then that's happened with some artists too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so. Yeah, we were lucky in that way. We didn't have a lot of pressure.
Beautiful. Let's go with Margot, then John, then Robin. Margot?
Chris, if you were starting over today, what do you think you would do about the world of AI? Would you incorporate it?
Like I said, I don't know much about, what they're going to do with AI and music right now. I just don't know the reason why they would go that way. Because to me, you have to have a reason for doing what you're doing. Are you trying to become a pirate? Is that it? To use AI? Is that the purpose? What's the purpose? It's not going to be better than if an artist records it, right? You just want to copy or duplicate? What's the purpose? You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. I don't see the purpose in it. And I feel when you're in a creative field, I think you have to have a purpose. Why are you doing this? And I wouldn't recommend doing it. I think the best way to record and to produce music is from an honest standpoint, because it always turns out better. An honest approach, you can always feel it, That's why artists, there's some great artists and there's artists that are not so great. Because the great artists are usually honest about their talent, honest about the direction they want to go in. And there's some great stuff, you know, great material that way. I don't see how AI could add to that. I just don't see the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Very good point.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll go with John, Robin, and then Thomas. But John, where you at, bro?
Yep, I'm here. So Chris, just you know, being in the streaming industry, I was curious about your perspective, you know, kind of continuing in the vein along the lines of piracy, as somebody who had a successful career kind of before the entire streaming revolution came about, all the piracy that was involved in that, and then everything that's come since. I was just sort of curious about your perspective as to how streaming has impacted the industry. How has it changed things for you, you know, and what would you change to be better?
To be better, that's a good question. But it's changed a lot of things, you know, streaming. And for recording artists, say for artists that just record, just an artist, they don't write, you know, they don't produce. It's tough. You know, it's tough for an artist right now. So it kind of forced, you know, like necessity is the mother of invention kind of thing. You kind of have to do more than that to survive in the streaming kind of environment we're in. You have to. You almost have to be a songwriter, you know, to make any money. You know, really, it's affected. I think it's affected the financial part of the business, you know, in a negative way. Now, for the consumer, you know, that's another thing. You know, they can stream, they can, belong to Spotify and, you know, hear all the songs that they want to hear. I mean, it's great for the consumer, but for the artist, though, sometimes it can be a negative, you know. But you have to do more things, though, to be successful at it right now. You know,
Definitely true.
We got to start. I'm glad we got the start we had, you know, because,
right.
you know, the huge catalog, you know, makes it, you know, better for me, you know. But if a person's first starting out, it's a tough go.
Yeah, it's like starting out with legalized piracy, basically. I mean, now that the consumer gets to listen, someone's getting paid, but not the artist, you know. So just one last thing I want to say, more of a comment than a question, but just a lot of respect for what you said a moment ago about making it so that your music, especially going forward, touches people in a positive way, consistent with God's word. I know that that's not an easy thing to do, especially if that means turning, you know, away from some of the things that made you successful in the first place. So just nothing but admiration from me on that.
That's the thing. It's always been the music. So lyrics come second. If a person doesn't like what they hear right away, they're going to turn it off. Even the program directors, man, and guys like Frankie Crocker, man, he will listen to something for 20 seconds. If it doesn't touch him, no, I'm not playing that. And he was a guy who would play whatever he wanted to. Nobody told Frankie Crocker what to play. But if it doesn't grab you right away, you know, if that song doesn't come on like, you know, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, you know, the Motown sound, man, okay, you're hooked. You're hooked before they say one word, right? It's always been the music. And that's why sometimes when I hear some artists, they feel they have to, you know, throw in dirty lyrics and, you know, all of it. Like, that's going to make you hit? No, If your music isn't right, I don't care what you say, it's not going to work. Wow. Okay? It's always been the music. Yeah. If the music is right, yeah, you can say a whole lot of stuff on top of the track, right? But if the music's wrong, you might as well start it.
Yeah, that's true.
Always the music.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Robin, I think you were next, sir, then Thomas, then Nathaniel.
Yeah, Chris. My question, as a writer, looking to submit to artists or to a singer or whatever, or even a producer like you, as a person that's starting, how do you go about submitting your music to you or to somebody that's famous or that's coming up that's interesting for you to write for them?
Yeah, it's hard doing that, especially doing it yourself. Like sometimes if you have an agent or a manager, maybe they have more contacts, to get your music heard. Just doing it yourself though can be kind of tough because you don't know who to contact. Sometimes people aren't accepting music unless an attorney is submitting it. You know what I mean? Because people will say, oh, well, if a song is even similar, sometimes they can get into lawsuits. So they want an attorney. They don't listen to anything unless the attorney submits it. So I would say either have an agent or manager or an attorney represent you when you're submitting your material.
Okay.
And the attorney will also protect your rights too.
Yes.
So that's what I would say.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Very cool. So Thomas, and I understand that Ladina has a question. So Ladina, I wasn't seeing your hand. I want to make sure that we come to you. Thomas, Nathaniel, Ladina, in that order. Are we good, Mr. Jasper? Are you good for time? Are we good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, very good. So Thomas?
Yeah, I think Ladina had her hand up or
did she?
had her question before me, so I'll wait for her to go ahead.
All right, I apologize. Go ahead, dear sister.
Well, I am a top liner. I consider myself a top liner. So, and like Anna, I can just play a little bit banging out on the piano when I write my songs. So I usually give them to somebody else, but I give them in note form with chords that I think would go in it and the melody and the lyrics. How many of your songs that you've written have you had multiple people writing on and that you give what you think and then they can take it to a whole new level sometimes?
I think there's a few songs that I wrote with Ernie Isley, and sometimes Marvin contributed to some of the songs, but I haven't written with like a lot of people, so but it's good if the other person or persons can add positively to the music. I always felt sometimes if you're collaborating, that person should be somebody who can feel what you're feeling, who can be in the same mindset almost. That's what makes the best collaborations to me. Like because if a person's totally in another direction and you submit a song to them, right, or you want to collaborate with them, sometimes you won't get the best result because they're not on the same page, they're not on the same track. It's best to have common interests, people with common interests. Like I always thought I could collaborate with Stevie Wonder, for example, because his mindset is the same, kind of the same as mine, in a lot of ways, keyboard playing wise, some of his chord structures, but you have to. Only way you know that is if you can work with somebody, if you work with people, or if you know their individual writing. You know what I mean? If you know the direction they're going in, like I hope that answers your question. I don't know.
Is that good, Ladina?
Yeah, that's I think that's a good way to think, that you need to be on the same kind of page.
Yeah, and that's the best result. The same page, yeah.
Absolutely excellent. Thomas.
All right. Well, I grew up and got basically my ear education in our home, where we listened to the best jazz and all the greatest players that played jazz. And I grew up listening to all of that. And then when I decided I wanted to go out and sing, the only music that was up here at the time, I'm up in Canada, was country and rock. So, and I was 20 years old at that time. So that's when I started in a singing career. So I started singing in a rock band because I couldn't sing in a jazz band. So singing in a rock band. And then we also got into some country rock. So we were doing country rock before it was popular. And then slowly after that, Motown came along. And it just kind of turned my head around. And I'd never heard Motown music like that, but every now and then we would get some songs that would sneak up here and be played on the radio. So learning to sing all the different genres of music, it gave me an advantage over a lot of the other singers because they were stuck singing a certain kind of music. And then as I was getting more and more, I'll just say forward motion, I guess, when it came to music, I started writing. And then, of course, I would always have different people come up and tell me that, well, you're a blues singer. And I would say, no, I'm not, but I sing blues. I won the Canadian Country Star Search up here. And the engineer told me what kind of singer I was. And I says, no, I can sing country, which I did. That's why I won it. I sing jazz, I sing all the different styles of music. And then I kind of have little niches of people that follow me for jazz. And then I have people that, love when I sing rock and all the different stuff like this. In one way, it's a blessing and it's a curse because you can't please them all, and, when it comes from my heart, like if it's jazz and I'm doing my jazz because that's what's inside me at the time. When I'm doing country, when I do country, that was what's inside me and so on. But to have people come up and try to pigeonhole me and say, this is the kind of singer you are, for me, that's like a hard slap. I look at them and I smile and I say, well, thank you. I'm really happy that, you enjoy that style of the music. And not wanting to lose anybody, because if you move too far to the left or too far to the right, then you're going to lose a lot of people because they say, well, I don't want to hear him anymore because he doesn't do the kind of music I like. But being a multi-style vocalist, I love all the styles that I sing. So I guess my question to you is like, how would you deal with that emotionally, knowing that this is in your heart and this is what you love to do, and have people say, well, you can't do that because you're this.
Yeah, well, you're going to get opinions from people when you're performing. It's a natural thing that comes with the business. People are going to have their opinions, but within you have to know what you want to do, what direction you want to go in. You know what I mean? You have to know what moves you, because sometimes remember I was talking about honesty in composition and in music, and it's usually the best result. If sometimes you have to do what's in your soul. You know what I mean? What's there? Is country there? Is jazz there? You know what I mean? Now it's great to be able to do all the different things because the way the business is, sometimes, yeah, you do have to be versatile. You know what I mean? And that's what I was alluding to before is, okay, if you can do a lot of different things, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing, you know. But at the same time, when you're doing a product, say you're going to record something, right? You got to say to yourself, okay, what's inside of me? What do I feel? You know, like I said, I've always studied music from a young age. And like I said, I started off studying classical music. But what was I doing before? Before I was playing by ear. What was I playing? The stuff on the radio. Sam Cooke, Ray Charles, you know, Marvin Gaye. That's what I was playing when I wasn't doing my lessons. You know, and that's, you know, I've always been an R&B guy. You know what I mean? That's me. But I studied classical, I studied jazz, I studied all that stuff. But and that's why I fit so well with the Isley Brothers, is because, you know, they liked the same people I liked. You know, Ronald liked Sam Cooke. I love Sam Cooke. You know what I mean? I used to sing and stuff when I was a little kid. I was kind of shy. I wouldn't sing around people. I would wait till everybody left, and then I would start singing all those songs, you know, because, you know, I was a shy kid. But at the same time, there was a connection, you know, like I said, being on the same page. We were on the same page. They liked the same stuff I did, right? So it was easy to write songs, you know, when Ronald was singing. Because when I would sing them, they would say, okay, he would just sing the same thing, right? But it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, what's in your soul? Because that is what is gonna probably prosper you the most. That's gonna make your whatever you're recording more honest and original. You know, you could, you know, we like Sam Cooke, but at the same time, the songs were not the same as Sam's. You know what I mean? Right. There was some expansion in the music, and that's what I always say. It's the music. You know, right, that's going to take you where you want to go. Your voice is going to complement, it's going to ride on top of it, yes, but that music is going to take you. That's why Motown was so successful. It didn't matter what artists were singing. Those guys, those musicians in there were playing, and those writers were writing. You know, Ashford and Simpson, Holland Dozier and Holland. That music was a thing. Like, This A Heart of Mine wasn't supposed to be an Isley Brothers song. It was supposed to be a Four Tops song. But the Four Tops, for some reason, didn't record it. And they said, okay, let's try it on the Isley Brothers. Boom, hit, right? Music, it's the music. And I tell people that all the time. Don't get confident about yourself. You know, if you don't have the music, it's not gonna work. I don't care how good you sing. Because I heard some stuff, you know, from Marvin Gaye and a long time before he was getting hits, right? Right. Sound like a different Marvin Gaye. But when he started singing those hits, then he started sounding like Marvin Gaye. The music made him change. And as time went on, he started taking control of his music. Right. Like with What's Going On and stuff, because What's Going On, that was such a big hit. And I know to this day, is because that's where Marvin wanted to go all along. Right. He was singing that other stuff, Stubborn Kind of Fella and all that kind of stuff, and it was hitting, but that was not where Marvin wanted to be. Absolutely. He wanted to be in that smooth kind of presentation, you know, with his vocal, What's Going On, Mercy, Mercy Me. That's where he wanted to be. And and when you do something that is meant for you, man, it's going to take off like, you know, just like that. And he's a great singer, you know what I mean? Yeah. But a great singer needs great music. Always. Yeah. You need great music.
Man, that is
so. I don't know if
that answered a lot of
time I can go off into some crazy stuff.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Daryl, I think you have your hand up, man, and then we'll begin to change hats here in a little bit. But Daryl, go for it, brother.
Okay, thanks so much. And thank you again, Chris, for you know, spending the evening with us and everything. I just want to know that quintessential, bring it together question. What does the future look like for CHRIS JASPER? What are you working on? What's it looking like? What kind of vibe are you trying to create right now? And that sort of thing. Where are you going?
Well, Be Number One is the lead single from the funk album that's coming out next month. It's all funk because
nice.
I recorded a lot of ballads, and people like the ballads, and a lot of time I've led with them, out of an album, and I try to put funk on different on all the albums. I try to put a little bit of everything on it, but this album's going to have all funk. That's the difference. And
nice.
That's what's on the horizon.
Okay.
Coming out now.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
That's excellent. I have a two-part question, and then we'll hopefully we'll wrap it up. I trust and pray that everyone has had an opportunity to get their questions answered. And again, thank you for hanging out with us. But when you're in an iconic band like the Isley Brothers, someone once said, when you're on top of the world, where's the next place you can go? Can you just give us a snapshot of what was the most rewarding thing about being on that trajectory of just hit record after hit record after hit record? And conversely, what was the most challenging thing about that same dynamic?
Yeah, well, the most challenging thing is like, what am I going to do next? After 3+3, okay, it's like, what do you do next? Okay, then I came up with Live It Up, and then, okay, what do you do next? Okay, Fight the Power. It's like that's what my perspective was. I can't speak from, like the other members, but as a composer, that's what I was always thinking about. What do I record next? I wanted it to be consistent as far as the quality of the music. The arrangement, the instrumentation, and all those things. So when I finished one album, we would tour a little bit, but I was always thinking about, okay, what are we going to record next? And it's not that it was uncomfortable, because this, when something's successful, that's great. Yeah. Everybody's feeling good, and touring and the record selling, but you still got to do it again.
Right.
You know what I mean? What do you go in with next? And I've always had that perspective of recording something else. What can I do different than I did before? But still maintain the quality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the kind of things I would think about.
Well, I guess we can wrap it up this way. Do you, CHRIS JASPER, have a favorite Isley Brother record or album? That's the one that you always go to. And then we'll go around the room to see what their favorite Isley Brother record or album is.
Well, I think my favorite, I would have to say Isley Brother album, is because The Heat Is On.
Yeah, man.
That one
yeah,
really put us in a different place, as far as touring, as far as record sales, popularity, going to different audiences. It was a #1 pop album. So that was kind of a pinnacle. Now, Isley Jasper Isley, that's Caravan of Love, of course. That is an international hit, worldwide hit.
Absolutely.
So those two, other than my solo things, those two kind of stand out, as being, the top.
Excellent. I would have to say The Heat Is On for me. And then Footsteps in the Dark, man, there's something about that song that just really, the character of that song just hits me every single time, man, So let's go around the room. Ned, do you have a favorite album or song?
Absolutely. Favorite album, Go For Your Guns.
There you go.
For Your Guns. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the sound of that first half of the 70s that were like talking drum from Stevie Wonder, like works from Billy Withers and so on. So I really like that sound, and Go For Your Guns is like on the top of it.
Excellent. Robbie, I know you have several favorites, but name one.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to pull Footsteps out of the bunch. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of an unfair question because it was like you're gonna get a top 10 at least.
Well, you got an album? You got a favorite album, Isley Brother album?
See, all of them.
Yeah, right. Well, Blair, I know you're getting ready to leave, Blair, but do you have a favorite song or album from the Isley Brothers?
I'll tell you what, that lady, I would put that on as loud as I could. Oh man, that thing to this day is just like, turn it up. I can't get enough of that song alone.
Wow.
Just outstanding.
Very
outstanding. Cool. Thank you, Chris.
All right now.
Absolutely. Linda, you have a favorite album or?
Love of Mine.
The Love of Mine? This Old Heart of Mine?
Yes, that's it. Yes.
Yeah, very good.
This Old Heart of Mine. I love that song.
Beautiful. Daryl, what you got?
For the Love of You.
Yeah.
That melody is just everything. Yeah. Tight.
Absolutely. Thomas, you have a favorite? And Nathaniel, you're next after Thomas.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Robbie, man. Like I mean, I guess I've been listening to the Isleys probably before the majority of you guys, and no, I just love pretty well all the stuff, man. Like if I were trying to guess a favorite, I couldn't do it. I just love a lot of the stuff, and that's all I can say, man.
Brother Nathaniel, you have a favorite Isley Brothers you want to share?
Yeah, I'm kind of split between Fight the Power and Voyage to Atlantis.
Yeah, that Voyage, man.
Those were on a repeat constantly,
Yeah, absolutely. Ladina, do you have a favorite?
Well, when he mentioned "The Heat Is On," the lyrics suddenly came to my mind. So I think.
Absolutely. Margot.
Who's that lady?
Who's that lady? Real fine lady. Right.
That's right. That's right.
Brother Robin.
He took a Voyage to Atlantis, but the other one would be Summer Breeze. Take somebody else's and make that the iconic. Soon as it comes on, change on that, brother.
Yeah.
It's serious.
Definitely. Well, we definitely really, truly appreciate you, Brother Chris, man. Thank you so much for the time that you shared with us. What we usually do at this point is we go into our music portion where everybody, plays different cuts that they're either working on or have released and whatnot. You're welcome to stay around for that portion. But for those of you who are watching the podcast, that's going to end it here for you. My name is Jerry B, and you've met all of these wonderful EntreMusicians. If you would like to join the community, just hit me up at the link that I've posted here, and we would love for you to join us. So we're going to sign off for now. Peace and blessings to all of you. We'll see you soon. God bless.